All right, transitioning from players taking things into their own hands to two programs that always follow orders. Air Force versus Army for my best bet here in week 10. I like over 37. I'm already encouraged by the fact that Colin Wilson was early on this one on the Action Network app. If you go ahead and follow him, not only does he put out his plays, but he puts out a quick rationale of everyone. And as soon as games open, he's right on it. This number is 37. And I get it. Historically, this is an underplay. This is an auto underplay. It's only exceeded 37 once since 2014. But here's the thing. Air Force is 82nd in defensive stuff rate. Not great against the run. Army's 59th. And both, as Wilson points out, are elite in finishing drives in the red zone. Their touchdown percentage is incredibly high. They don't attempt many field goals. You have two offenses that are going to utilize all four downs to be able to get that short yardage. And then on top of it, you have Air Force. They're 76th in running plays of 30 yards or more allowed nationally. So Army can hit the big one against them. And then finally, when you look at what Army has done this season, they've played in a whole bunch of shootouts. Four of their games have exceeded 50 points. And that Western Kentucky game was 38-35. Wake Forest, they scored, I want to say like 126 points in that one. Granted, I don't think it's going to go quite that high, but you're getting the value in a number that books historically have not been able to make low enough. I think this is off by close to 4 or 5 points. And when you're looking at a spot where it's this low, 37 is just one of those numbers that is predicated on the fact that they're both slow, methodical teams. And the chances of having those 10, 11 play drives are certainly on the table to eat up the clock. But anything below 40 just became an auto overplay for me, because I do believe that Army's a team that can punch a lot of totals over the closing number. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for my best play of the week. I know that you are anti this play, Ianello. You were fuming in the Slack channel as soon as it went up. But I just think this is being discounted by the fact that historically these two teams have played very conservatively, and this year they have more punch on offense. What are your thoughts?
I hate it. I hate everything about it. This is one of those plays for me that everything you said makes total sense. I don't care. A man has to have principles, Mike. He has to believe in something. I don't believe in a lot of things. I believe the MAC is the best conference in America. I believe UTSA should be ranked. And I believe service academies go under. You bet they're under blindly. Like you said, service academy unders are 39, 9, and 1 since 2005. This is one of those ones where even if I had a crystal ball and could see to the future and I knew this game was going over, I still wouldn't take it. I don't want any part of that. That's dirty money. It's no good here. It may win. I hope it wins for the sake of our show. I don't like it because I have principles, and my principles say you bet service academy unders blindly, and just because that's just American. It's like apple pie, service academy unders. But I will say, because like I said, I'm an American. I love service academy unders. I actually have a play on this game as well for my best bet. I'm actually going to go with Air Force -3 here. I think Air Force is a pretty good team. I know we talked about this before when they played San Diego State, which they did end up losing that game, but they looked pretty good. And they've had a good run through the Mountain West. Obviously, they beat Boise State, beat Wyoming, beat New Mexico State, beat FAU, they lost to Utah State, whooped Navy, and Army's dropped 4 in a row now. They lost to 2 MAC schools. Obviously, Wisconsin beat them, which you kind of expected. And then, like you said, they had that fluky game against Wake Forest that was bananas. And these teams know each other. They play very similar. And I just think Air Force does everything that Army does a little bit better. They're first and second in the country in rushing offense. Air Force is first. They average 318 yards per game. They lead the country with 28 rushing touchdowns. What's kind of unique about this Air Force team versus normal service academies like Army, Navy, Air Force in the past is usually when you look at their stats, they have like Army has it this year where they have like 6 running backs that are all averaging like around 40 to 60 yards per game. They share the ball. They don't like, I mean, other than, like Malcolm Perry, can you name a player that's been on any of these teams in the last 5 years? Like no one knows who's on Army or Air Force or Navy because it's just, hey, we give the ball to whoever's in the standing behind me and he goes for 5 yards. And you do that with 7 different guys. You rotate them through. But this Air Force team is unique in the sense that they really do have 2 stars, Hazik Daniels and Brad Roberts, who are their main bell cows that like most of these teams don't have. Daniels he's their quarterback. He's averaging 71.8 yards per game with 9 touchdowns on the ground. Brad Roberts has gone for 105.6 yards per game with 8 touchdowns. So it's really just the 2 of them that dominate. They're both very good. And I agree, you know, Air Force's defensive line yards isn't great, but like you said, neither is Army. But Air Force is much better on the offensive line. They're 8th in the country in run blocking grade, according to PFF. And while their line yards, you know, isn't great, they are still good against the run. They're 14th in the country in rush success on defense, where Army is 40th. Another concern is the Falcons are 9th in tackling, where Army is 71st. So I do think they have a huge advantage in the tackling department. They have a huge advantage on the offensive line. And like I said, I really like their quarterback and running back combo. I think they're the better team. I love that they're playing at home is another thing. They've already beaten Navy, like I said. So if they win this game, they clinch the Commander-in-Chief trophy. And since 2015, Air Force is 22-16 straight up or against the spread at home. They're 29-9 straight up. So with this, you know, 2.5 number, you kind of only need them to win. Like I said, they're 29-9 at home since 2015. They're great against the spread at home. You know, that thin air. Hey, when you're running the ball 50 times and that oxygen is thin, it's a lot easier to get tired playing in Colorado than it is, you know, down at West Point. So I don't like your over, but if it hits, I hope it's because Air Force is running the ball up on Army. Give me the Falcons -3 here.
And the last point here, just the state of Colorado, I don't need to tell them, but for anyone who doesn't live in Colorado, the weather can just be absurd. It can go from blazing hot to snowing, winds, you know, in the matter of a few days. So just looking at the weather report, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be in the 60s, no winds, really not even any clouds in the sky. So the idea of it potentially having some adverse weather conditions, rain, snow, that's off the table. So I like it. I'm going to ride with you on that one. I'm going to parlay it together, same game parlay. Check out the WynnBET sportsbook to be able to toss those together and get yourself, you know, plus 250 if both sides of it can hit.